I'm Gary Stearman, and this is Prophecy Watchers. Welcome to the program today. We have a very special guest from Israel, and his name is Avi Lipkin. Avi, I know that a lot of our viewers are familiar with you already. You've been here many times before, but there are a lot of people out there who don't know Avi Lipkin from Israel. Tell us a little about yourself, and then we're going to talk about your books.
Very good, thank you. I am an American-born Jew from New York. You'll have to forgive me for that. And I moved to Israel 54 years ago.
Wow.
I've been there 54 years. My wife came from Egypt. I mention her because she has been my teacher. The 7 books that I've written could not have been done without her guidance and instruction. And the last 33 years, I have been coming here to America to speak in churches of all denominations, and of course, coming here to do shows with you guys.
Absolutely.
We've been doing shows 30 years.
And just in your spare time, you've been doing some writing.
A few books.
We have some books here in front of us, and I want Avi to tell us about his books. You sort of write off the beaten path. You're very unique in what you cover about Israel and about Scripture.
What happens is this. Of course, everything is based on the Bible. But the Bible is confirmed by current events, and by military intelligence, and by enemy actions against the U.S. and against Israel. And so I would write a book. My first book, for example, predicted 9/11 before it happened, and everyone was attacking me for being politically incorrect, not to use other words.
No.
And but then after it happened, they said, Avi's a prophet. He predicted 9/11. I said, I'm not a prophet. I just listened to my wife. Because my wife had been collecting information nonstop, and she still is, concerning the intentions of the Islamic agenda to either destroy America or convert America to Islam. So it's primarily now financially and demographically to convert America to Islam. So this talks about that, and it was written in 1997. In 1999, I talk about the shrinking Jewish population and the radically growing Islamic population. So I say that there are 6 million Jews in America today and 30 million Muslims. And they get their people into the Congress, and they get their people into places of influence. And Israel needs a strong Christian America to survive. And that's my message, Christian revival for Israel's survival. Then after 9/11, my third book, and these 3 books are written under the name of Victor Mordecai, which is my AKA. The third book talks about Islamic plans after 9/11 to conquer America and convert it to Islam. Then my fourth book, which is I think the most important book, is about the Bible Bloc Party in Israel. And I am the founder and leader of the Judeo-Christian Bible Bloc Party. And we have run in 5 elections. We got beaten up pretty bad. But I believe that when many, many more millions of Jews and Christians move to Israel, we will be the biggest party in the Knesset. Will I be alive then? I don't know. Only God knows. But I believe the Bible Bloc Party will be the party of the future for the state of Israel.
And you are persistent. I will say that about you.
Yeah. Thank you. And I take that as a compliment.
It is a compliment.
And then this is my book about Islam in Genesis, and the second book is Islam in Exodus. These, by the way, the book about Mecca and Saudi, this is very popular in Saudi Arabia. People are buying this book a lot in Saudi Arabia and writing to me. And I write back, and we have a very good relationship, talking. They know I'm the enemy, but they're nice to me, and I'm nice to them. And then this book talks about, you keep hearing about Syria in the news. This talks primarily about the war in Syria between the Shiites and the Sunnis. But the war between the Shiites and the Sunnis is also Iran and other countries. So this explains why they are at each other's necks.
Wow. Well, I think you can see that he is a very studious man, a man of great experience and right at the heart of Israeli politics. And if you want to know what's going on there, you listen to Avi. And we're going to be talking during this program about what to look for, what to expect, what can we see in the news that is of great interest to the Christian, and I'm going to put that to you.
Well, Israel is a country It's called the Jewish state, and it's the only country in the world which is a Jewish state. Our Christian population was 2%, Arab Christian. And then in 88, 89, 90, all of a sudden a lot of Russian Jews came in with Christian spouses and relatives. So then the Christian population in Israel grew from 2% by 6% to 8%. Now we have the Ethiopians coming in, and a big percentage of them are believers also. So I would say that we have about 9% of our population is Christian believers, but they have no representation in our Knesset because they are relatively new communities and they have not been organized. And so my purpose is to organize them, because I believe yet we have 6 million Jews in America married to 4 million Christians, and I think that we're going to be seeing a massive immigration to Israel of the 10 million, or at least many millions of them, and that will propel my political party, our political party,
Yes,
into the majority.
Now, when we're talking about Israel, we're not talking about just any piece of land or any nation around the world. We're talking about a special parcel of land. If you read the Bible, you will discover that God loves the land. He loves the place where the temple once stood, and it's going to stand there again one day. He loves the land, and he loves the Jewish people. He loves the modern state of Israel, and it's been extant and strong since 1948, and we love to watch what's going on there. That's why I like to talk to you, because you sort of have your finger on the pulse in a way that nobody I know of does.
You know, I think I've mentioned it on your shows in the past, and we've done dozens of shows, you know.
Yeah.
But when I started working on my Judeo-Christian party in 2005, I went to the Vatican embassy in Jerusalem to meet with the Vatican ambassador, Pietro Sambi, and he was telling me about how the Muslim leadership was pressing him and saying, oh, you know what, after 1964, we have decided there was never a temple on the Temple Mount. And but I, for example, as a stamp collector, bought postage stamps of Jordan showing the temple and the Temple Mount. And the tour guides for tourism, 1962 and 1924, they say very clearly that the Temple Mount was the site of Solomon's temple and where Jesus walked.
Wow.
But then Arafat in 64 said, well, guess what? There was no temple. So Pietro Sambi, you know, when they asked him, well, what do you think? Was there a temple or wasn't there? He said, well, if there was no temple on the Temple Mount, where did Jesus overturn the money changers' tables? And where did he go on Hanukkah? John 10, verse 22, Jesus visits the temple on the Feast of Dedication. And where did he have his bar mitzvah? I mean, you look at the book of Galatians, at the temple. Everything was at the temple. And where did the apostles go? The temple. So, you know, Ambassador Archbishop Pietro Sambi said if there was no temple, you can throw out the New Testament and the Old Testament, and you can throw out the Jews and the Christians.
What a statement.
Yeah.
Now, it's not just the temple and Temple Mount, although that's amazing, but think about the Mount of Olives. Think about what happened in certain settings in the New Testament that took place on the Mount of Olives. It's still there. Some people say some of the stock of the olive trees that were there when Jesus walked that area are still there.
2,000-year-old olive trees.
Wow.
Still producing beautiful olives.
Love those olives.
Yeah.
But, you know, there are a lot of people that would like to wipe Israel off the face of the map, and they make no excuses. They just say, we're going to do it. Give us a little time. We're going to do it. What's it like living under that kind of pressure?
Well, I've been in Israel myself, 54 years.
Yeah.
And the state of Israel has been there pretty soon. It's going to be 75 years. We got used to it, and I don't envy anyone who tries to come against Israel.
If somebody is on your side, and I think I know who it is, yes, indeed.
Big brother.
We're talking with Avi Lipkin, a man of great experience. He has walked in the halls of power and power politics, and still does. And I'm glad that you're doing it, because I know what you believe and how you believe, and I want to see you gain precedence. Put it that way.
And it keeps me alive.
And it would.
Yeah.
It's a good thing you're doing. Israel, Maybe on satellite and cable television, occasionally you see blurbs about things that are going on in Israel, and it arouses your curiosity. I know it does mine. And there are channels around now that come from Israel. You can sort of watch the news from Israel, but still you may come up short. What's happening? What's really happening in Israel? And that's my big question to you today. What's really happening in Israel that we should know about?
Okay, well, firstly, I think the emphasis has to be, especially in light of the demonstrations that people are seeing in the streets of Israel, is a shift in the demography, a shift in the population. What is the shift? In 1948-49, the population of Israel was 648,000 people. I don't know if most of them were communists and socialists, but they were handpicked in Europe and brought over specially. And Joseph Stalin, the dictator of Soviet Union, was one of the first, if not the first, to recognize the Jewish state of Israel, because he was convinced that Ben-Gurion and the top leadership were so red flag people that they would all join the Soviet bloc. But to his credit, Ben-Gurion decided to form a coalition not with the more communist type parties there, but with the liberals and with a religious party there. And what he did was he gave as payment to the Orthodox parties, he gave them 500 exemptions from military service for the yeshiva students, because so many yeshiva students died in the Holocaust. The population has grown about 10 times that amount, a little more.
Yeah.
So you'd think if there were 500 exceptions then, it's not 500, and it should be 5,000. If it's 10 times the population, 10 times the exemption should be 5,000 exemptions. You know how many exemptions there are of yeshiva students today in Israel? 170,000. And these people are urged by the rabbis to get married young, have 10 children per family, and of course the Israeli government pays the rabbis for their foot soldiers.
Avi, I want to pause just a second and tell our audience, we're talking with Avi Lipkin from Israel, and occasionally he contributes to our magazine, The Prophecy Watcher, and it's a monthly magazine, and I want to show you how you can get yours.
Everything that we're doing at Prophecy Watchers is vital because Bible prophecy is coming to pass right before our eyes. And it has never been more important for believers to understand what the Bible says about the days that we are living in. In case you haven't noticed, the whole world is spinning out of control, but we are not surprised because many of the things taking place were prophesied in the Bible thousands of years ago. That's why we want to offer you a very special subscription to our magazine, The Prophecy Watcher, that will keep you on the cutting edge of Bible prophecy. Stay informed on prophetic world events. Follow the nuclear threats from Russia and Iran, China's march to world domination, the likelihood of another global pandemic, the rise of artificial intelligence and transhumanism, war in the Middle East, the UFO phenomenon, and the latest technology preparing the world for the mark of the beast. The Prophecy Watcher magazine features articles from leading prophecy experts like Gary Stearman, Mondo Gonzalez, Thomas Ice, Randall Price, L.A. Marzulli, Bill Salas, and many others. With your gift of $50 or more to support the worldwide outreach of Prophecy Watchers, you will receive 12 issues of the magazine in either print or digital format. You will also receive 10 bonus DVDs that feature in-depth teaching on the ancient book of Enoch, heaven and the New Jerusalem, the biblical case for the rapture, a look at how God put the gospel in the stars, what really happened at the Tower of Babel, and Ezekiel's prophecy on the battle of Gog and Magog. This special offer is available anywhere in the United States with free shipping included. Don't wait. Pick up the phone right now and call the toll-free number on your screen or visit us at prophecywatchers.tv. Stand with us today and help us take the message of Christ's soon return to the whole world.
And I hope you do get your subscription to the Prophecy Watcher. As I said, Avi writes occasionally for the Prophecy Watcher. You're always welcome to contribute because I love the stuff you write.
Thank you.
Now, let's continue on with what should we be watching in Israel today?
Okay, so there is a plus and a minus to what's happening. The plus is that the socialist, communist, left-wing, ultra-left-wing crazy people are losing power. They are losing their strength because they're losing their numbers. So the right-wing Likud type people and the different religious groups are all united now. They have 64 members of Knesset out of 120. So now Netanyahu has a very firm majority in the Knesset, but the 46 who are not in the, 46,
Right.
They are very upset that they're losing power. So the good thing is that the right wing and the religious are winning. The problem is that if the ultra religious and the right wing get too strong, then there's no viable opposition, and that's not good. And so what we have to do, I don't know how to do it exactly at this point, maybe when 10 million Jews and Christians move to Israel from the United States, that might be a third block changing the political vista of Israel, which I think is going to happen. But at this point, Israel is solidifying its right-wing coalition. The left wing is not happy. The left wing is actually doing things which are very injurious to the state of Israel, including supporting BDS and telling people to withdraw their money and their investments from Israel because they're not in power, so they don't want the Likud to succeed. Very negative, very unfriendly behavior to the state of Israel. But like I said before, I think, and I don't know if we're going to have time to do a show, because the situation, if the situation in America deteriorates economically or because of a war, I think there will be a tremendous wave of anti-Semitism, and then the Jews will flee. And because Jews who are married 80% to Christian spouses, they will take their Christian spouses with them to Israel.
Wow.
So we're talking about a possibility of an influx of 10 million Jews and Christians into a country which today has 7.5 million Jews and Christians.
Now, do other people in Israel, your friends, have this same feeling?
No.
They don't.
Maybe some Messianics do, but the problem is the Messianics still want to be seen as Christians. So to prove that they're Jews still, even though they believe in Christ, they vote for Netanyahu or they vote for Lapid, or Messianics will not vote for the political party which gives representation to Jews, Christians, and Messianics.
I want to take a little side trip for a minute or two here, and I want Avi to introduce his son, Aaron. Now, your son, Aaron, meets many Americans, and he does tours, but he's also done a lot of hiking, let's put it that way, around the Israeli topography, and he's found some really interesting things. Tell people what he's located, what he does.
Well, I think Aaron's claim to fame, he has many claims to fame, but the most recent one, I think the most powerful one, is the discovery of a lead tablet, which has been dated to 3,200 years ago, 1200 BC. A lead tablet. The lead came from a lead mine in Greece from that period, and it has the Hebrew letters in it, which is Yud Hey Vav Hey, the Tetragrammaton, Jehovah, and it says, "Cursed are you, and then it says again the Tetragrammaton, Yud Hey Vav Hey, and this has been dated to 1200 BC, and what it proves is where it was found was the altar of Joshua, meaning Joshua, who proclaimed the blessings and the curses to the 6 tribes and the 6 tribes.
Yeah. Now,
this really happened.
I heard the words altar of Joshua. Tell them about that, because there it was, right out in plain sight for thousands of years. Nobody tore it down, and along came Aaron with others, and it's an amazing story.
Yes. Well, I think also we definitely have to mention the real hero here, Professor Adam Zartal, rest in peace.
Yes.
And what happened was he was hiking in an area that had not been excavated by archaeologists, and he found a mound in the middle of nowhere, and the mound was basically rocks piled up, and it was indescribable. And so he started, with his team, they started pulling the rocks out, And when they got to the bottom, they found an edifice which is exactly the same dimensions as the altar in the temple in Jerusalem. And the tabernacle was resting there, and they made their sacrifices there. The animal bones were of 1-year-old kosher animals, clean animals. So it could not be a non-kosher or pagan altar. And what happened was, after a certain time, when Shiloh was ready to receive the Ark of the Covenant, the tabernacle, and it was there for 369 years, so they covered up the Joshua's altar with stones so that it would not be defiled by the pagans, the Canaanites. And so this is something that Adam Zartal discovered. And, my son was marching with him. And then as Adam Zartal's health was deteriorating, he begged my son to please publish all of his books and all of his teachings in Hebrew and in English. And that's as part of the work that my son is doing, is to make the results of the archaeological finds public.
And this is the thing that makes Israel, to me, so amazing and so unique on the face of this globe. There's not another place like it. The prophets walked there, and then biblical history is to be found there, and people come from all over the world to see these things. And now let's take a look.
If I may add something very important.
Sure.
I think today that the biggest problem facing Jews and Christians together is the non-belief, the atheism, the apostasy of people who might have been born Jewish or Christian, and they say, well, guess what? The whole Bible is a myth and fantasy and fables. Even our Prime Minister, Yitzhak Rabin, the one who was assassinated, he said the whole Bible is a pack of, not lies, but a whole pack of metaphors and mythology. And
fiction.
It's all fiction. But now that the archaeological proofs are coming out, that all these things really happened, we know that Joshua really did exist. We know that Moses really did exist. We know that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob really did exist, that King Saul, King David, and King Solomon really existed, and the prophet Samuel. These are all the things that my son is doing. And of course, he has his 4 DVDs, which I know Prophecy Watchers also offers. And I think there's a book out by Adam Zartal that my son translated and published, Mountains of Israel. So we are proving the veracity of the Bible. We are proving the veracity of God's existence, and we are proving the veracity of the existence of all the forefathers.
Hear that, you and our Christian audience? Did you hear those words? Not that the Bible needs proving. I didn't need to have the Bible proved. I believed it cover to cover, still do, always have, first time I ever read it. But Avi said something very important, and that is the things that we believe in have proofs. And that's quite a statement. I mean, it's God saved Israel for today.
I have to tell you that, and I think I'm sure I mentioned it on a previous program, but and I'll keep it short because I know the time is running out. But when I was a young kid in 1962, I was 13, preparing for my bar mitzvah. And the U.S. Post Office issued a series of stamps on the American Civil War. And one of the stamps is the Battle of Shiloh. And my Hebrew teacher caught us red-handed, trading stamps in the middle class. And she saw the stamp which said Shiloh. She says, there's a Shiloh in Israel. And we said, oh, really, where? Well, it's in the Bible. Well, where is it in Israel? She said, we don't know, because it was covered up by earth. It was destroyed in an earthquake. In 1967, 5 years later, when Israel liberated Judea and Samaria, we went to an Arab Christian village by the name of Ruins of Shiloh. And we asked them, do you know where Shiloh is? They said, sure, it's right there in the valley.
Right there.
They preserved the name Shiloh. And so the archaeologists came in, they started digging down, and they found 4 Greek Orthodox churches and monasteries. And in front of one of the churches, they dug down 6 feet, and they found a mosaic. And the mosaic said in Greek, may the Lord Jesus Christ have mercy on the people of Shiloh. So bingo, we found Shiloh. But the thing was that until we found that, people were saying, well, Shiloh, it's mentioned in the Bible, but it's a myth. It never really happened.
You're listening to Avi Lipkin. If you could spend time with him, and as I'm privileged to do on occasion, he can talk like this for 8 hours without taking a breath.
10 hours.
10 hours. And Avi, we're going to take a pause here, and we'll be right back.
It's always a special treat when our old friend Avi Lipkin joins us straight from Jerusalem. Avi always provides us with his unique Israeli perspective on world events. A former spokesman for the Israeli Defense Force, Avi has spent the last 30 years traveling all over the world speaking to churches, synagogues, civic groups, and making countless television appearances. He was also one of the few voices in the 90s to warn Christians about the coming terrorist attacks. Over the years, Avi has committed his teachings to paper in the form of 7 books. Never one to shy away from controversy, Avi pulls no punches as he discloses what he feels is the #1 threat to our Judeo-Christian way of life. Soon, the armies of the Middle East will unite to destroy Israel, and Avi's insights on these coming developments will provide you with more pieces of the end times puzzle. We'd love to send you all 7 of Avi's books today for your gift of $79.95 to our ministry in what we're calling the Avi Lipkin package. These resources will open your eyes to sobering facts and perspectives that go unreported in the Western media. These details will prepare you for what is indeed on the horizon. When you give to support Prophecy Watchers, you not only receive these valuable resources, you're helping us further our ministry's mission. An integral part of that mission is actively partnering with men of God who are currently engaged in alerting those who will hear to a number of emerging scenarios. Among those, Israel is the focal point of action. We look forward to hearing from you soon. Call us at the toll-free number on the screen or go to our online bookstore at prophecywatchers.tv to support this relevant and vital work. Remember, everything that we are doing at Prophecy Watchers is made possible with your support, so stand with us today.
Well, we have just a short time left to continue our talk with Avi, and I hope people look at your books. I hope that they watch what's going on here as we watch Israel and bring news about Israel to our audience. And you're one of the best ways we do it. I love to talk to Avi. How would you conclude? Talk to somebody out there today who's watching us who, well, they've never been to Israel on a tour. They've really not studied Israel. They don't know that much about the Jewish people. What should they know in 2 or 3 minutes?
Well, I would say like this. If you have a beautiful book or a beautiful magazine with colored pictures of a beautiful crown bedecked with jewels, and you see a picture in a book, well, isn't that beautiful? Yeah. Or if you go to the museum and you see 2-dimensional, you see that crown inside of a glass case, and you can only see it like from 1.5, 2 sides, isn't that even more beautiful?
Yeah.
Now, 3rd dimension is when you hold the crown in your hands. That is the most beautiful. And when you go to Israel, you hold that golden crown in your hands. And when you come on our tours, Lipkin tours to Israel, you have to have the Bible in your hand the whole time, because we open up chapter, verse, chapter, verse, chapter, verse, and the Bible becomes alive. It's not like you just believe blindly. You see exactly where everything took place. And there are also parts there we could talk about from the New Testament, where Aaron shows you things that happened from the New Testament, in the New Testament and in the Bible. All these things prove the veracity of the Bible.
And you are there with, let's say, a background of knowledge that most people don't possess. And a lot of Jews who have gone back to Israel and over the years have absorbed these things, and then at some point they want to share them with other people who don't know about this. To me, this is the beauty of Israel. It's publicizing something that the world has sort of forgotten about. And the world does tend to forget about its spiritual foundations, unless it's reminded periodically. So I'm glad that you're writing your books. By the way, Avi's books will take you to Israel in a way that maybe you can't visit any other way. And I encourage you to pick up one or several of his books.
I will add also that these books are a running commentary over a period of the last 30 years of my life. And things that I said, this has to be written down. I'd write it down, and each time a book would be sealed, and I'd publish it. Then after a few days, a few weeks, a few months, I had new material. So I'd start working on the next book or next edition. And so this is material that I collect and I share.
You're listening to Avi Lipkin, and as often as Avi wants to come, we will entertain him and we'll bring him to you. I hope you enjoyed hearing him. I'm Gary Stearman. Hey, you keep watching. We are.